sharing the results. Oh, we have so many folks who just want to learn about it and who haven't used fan subscription yet. Awesome. You are definitely in the right place and with the right host, the host with the most and the coolest name. It is my great delight to introduce to you today Dave Cool, who is going to moderate this panel. Dave is at Bandzoogle. I've known him for a long time. He's a super approachable human being and a real team player. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Tristan. Thanks everyone at Focal Lens. Thanks to the panelists for taking the time, and thank you everyone who's watching right now. Hopefully this is a helpful hour of your time. So I think we're going to start off just talking a little bit about what Patronage is, what is that fan subscription model, and then I'm going to start asking all of our panelists about their journey using this type of revenue model, and then how they go about it. And then I want to dig into how they're finding a balance using this type of revenue model with all the other things that artists have to take care of as a do-it-yourself artist. So after we get through that, I'll do a little intro, talk about fan subscriptions. We're going to talk to the panelists for a little while on those three main topics: starting a journey, building tiers and rewards, and finding a balance. And then we're going to do a Q&A. So like Tressa said, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A tab, not in the main chat. And we will try to get to as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. So fan subscriptions, it's called a lot of different things. So it's a patronage model. So it's where fans pay a monthly fee in exchange for rewards and access to your music and other exclusive content. So Patreon is one of the more popular platforms that encourages this type of patronage revenue model. Bandzoogle has it built into our website platform as well, and there's a few others that do this, and it's really picking up in popularity since the pandemic hit, because it is a way to monetize online. And so the biggest benefits for musicians is that it gives you recurring revenue. I mean, that's obviously a very good thing. And it can help you build a more predictable income stream as well. And it really allows you to reward your super fans, like your biggest fans, and gives you an avenue to really connect with them on a much deeper level and engage with them on a much deeper level. It's almost like a private club where you might share things, maybe things that aren't as polished, with these super fans as part of this online club. And one of the most common questions when talking about this revenue model that we get at Bandzoogle, that I get, is it the same thing as crowdfunding? And not exactly. Whereas both crowdfunding and fan subscriptions or patronage, you're getting support from your fans, from your crowd. That's kind of where it ends. Crowdfunding is really more about a specific project that has a set deadline and a release date. And fans are, for the most part, giving you like one donation or payment for a specific reward. Whereas subscriptions and patronage is more an ongoing relationship where there's monthly or annual payments for ongoing access to content. So it's a different approach. And if you are doing this as an artist, could it or should it replace all the other things you're doing as an artist, where it's selling music, streaming your music, crowdfunding, all that fun stuff? The short answer is no. You should still be selling your music online. You should still be streaming it. The challenge is managing all of those things, obviously, and windowing certain content. Are your super fans, as part of your online fan club, going to get something first? Are they the only ones who are going to get it? That kind of thing. But subscriptions are really for your biggest fans. So the second part to that is to look at your fan base. Like, there's some fans will only stream your music on Spotify or Apple Music, because that's how they consume music, and that's where they're at in their fandom. Others are going to buy music and merch directly from you. Others will buy tickets to shows or live streams these days. Others will make a pledge for a crowdfunding campaign. And then there are others who will become these monthly or annual subscribers, patrons. And we really believe it's important to have lots of options available to let fans support your career. At Bandzoogle, we're about to release a whole bunch of data since the pandemic began on all the revenue streams and all the income earned from Bandzoogle members since mid-March. And it's incredible. The various income streams, just everything from donations through music and merch sales to fan subscriptions to live stream ticket sales. It's really incredible when you give fans the opportunity to support you other than just simply streaming your music. You might be surprised at how generous people can be. One important thing to think about is if you're not doing this revenue model yet or haven't tried it, is it's not necessarily for every artist. It really works best for if you already have a bit of an established fan base. If you're just starting out, that's fine. You should probably focus on building up your fan base and engaging with fans on social media and releasing music and all that stuff. Subscriptions is more if you have an established fan base that you can go to where you have fans that want a little bit more and might be willing to pay to get that extra content. So if you're really prolific with creating content, that's another thing to think about. Creating new music, poems, visual art, we'll get into. There's a lot of great examples with the artists that have joined us today. If you love to engage with your fans, that's a good thing. And also if you're a music teacher, which is kind of a different approach, but music, if you're teaching your instrument or voice, it lends itself really well to this type of revenue model because you're constantly creating new lessons and content and things like that. So we see a lot of teachers using that fan subscriptions patronage model very effectively. And who is it not for? So if you're just, like I said, if you're just starting out and don't have an established fan base of any kind, it's probably too soon to start thinking about this type of revenue stream. And if you're also not an artist, and it's totally fine, but if you're not an artist who is really prolific with creating new songs or videos or other types of content, this might be not the right approach for you. And if you're really not social and don't want to engage with your fans or speak to your fans, then it's probably not something that you're going to enjoy. So you probably shouldn't do it. So just to be perfectly honest, that it's not something that's necessarily every artist needs to try this just because we have it built in at Bandzoogle, you need to try it. It's not the case. It's really for specific artists that it can really benefit, but it might not be for everyone. So we went over what is patronage. And so now we're going to start talking to our panelists about their journey using this type of revenue model. So we'll go over that journey, how they've approached their building tiers and rewards for their fans, and then how they're finding balance with feeding that, those subscribers versus, all the other things you're doing as an artist. So first we have, I'm going to start off with Julian Taylor, who is a staple in Toronto music scene, obviously, for those of you that know him. And despite releasing an album during the pandemic, The Ridge has been featured in American Songwriter and garnered rave reviews. And it hit #1 in the Indigenous Music Countdown, which is amazing. He also, I believe, ran a pre-order for it that was very successful and was selling it direct to fan. And so we're thrilled to have Julian here today to talk about, because Julian, you launched a Patreon page over the last few months, and I'm curious how you came about. Was it really in response to the loss of live show revenues, like gigs were getting canceled? So were you looking just for another way to engage an audience and generate revenue? Like what was your thinking going into to embarking on that journey?
I remember, Dave, that the pandemic lockdown in Toronto hit on basically March 15th. And by March 17th, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I had my Patreon account set up. Usually you would have had a big gig on St. Patrick's Day playing at Dora Q Irish Pub or something like that, which I've done for the past decade. And everything was vanished pretty quickly. So I actually ended up starting it out of sheer panic.
Yep, that's fair.
And what ended up happening was that I don't have a tier system on mine. I just have a straight subscriber price. Basically a cup of coffee at Starbucks is how I have it set up right now. And I the things that I ended up wanting to do, it turned out that some of them didn't actually work because all of a sudden the pandemic hit and then these opportunities online came. Because what I was originally going to do is just perform shows and online things for people that signed up on my Patreon. And so I've had to rethink it a little bit. And what I do is any sort of pre-recorded stuff gets previewed there first. And the Ridge came out, and it did quite well, and it's doing quite well, which I'm excited about. But I'm always looking to, like, as soon as something gets put out, as an artist, you're always looking to what's next. And so what I've decided to do is use my Patreon, uh, and I'm going to write, record, and document the entire new recording process for the next record, however long that takes, using that.
Nice. Yeah. So that was my next question, was to see if, like, because it was response to the pandemic, which we're seeing a lot, obviously, and it makes a lot of sense. I was curious if you were going to, like, in a hopefully very soon post-pandemic world, if you were going to keep with that Patreon kind of, type model for
I
your
think,
career.
yeah, for sure. I think that um, we have to be really inventive now. I think that there's a couple of things that people really, and I can only speak for myself. I want to hear stories, and I want to see people going through the process, and authentic stories are important to me, and authentic music is important to me, like everybody I'm sure on this panel. But I think that with Patreon, I have a decent following, and they subscribe every month, but I want to give them a different experience. I mean, I'm pretty active on social media. Don't love talking on videos and stuff like that. I think pictures and stories that are written down are more my speed, but I'm willing to at least try. Like, I'm not on TikTok doing like things like that. But
No, that's fair enough. And that totally works. I mean, that's a great point of, finding your comfort zone within that. And I think your fans will appreciate
you got to be
what you're
yourself.
giving. Yeah, you got to be yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So Moksha, I'd also like to ask you the same question. Um, so Moksha is joining us. She's in the group Hudos, which is a great band that I've known for many, many years. They're a longtime Band Ziegel member as well. The recent album Water Mercy received tons of rave reviews. It charted on Billboard in folk Americana, and they just won an Independent Music Award for a social action song. So Moksha, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this panel. So I'm curious, when did Hudos decide to launch a subscriptions model? You did it directly through your Bandzoogle website. When and why did you decide to embark on that patronage journey for your career?
Well, first of all, I mean, we had, prior to ever even contemplating doing some kind of subscription plan, we had had a couple of successful fundraising campaigns for previous albums. And through that process, of course, really got things in order in terms of our lists, in terms of, fan base and everything. And one of the things that we saw was that our fans, in terms of the perks that we were offering with those previous fundraising campaigns, a lot of the things that people were really preferring were perks that were more interactive, which signaled that there was an interest in not just getting our albums, but also kind of having this interaction and participation with our creative process and what we were doing. And that was really interesting to me. And so that was kind of part of the drive, of course, in terms of wanting to actually set up something that was ongoing and engaging and making it so that there was that opportunity for being part of the creative process. And then, COVID, of course, was the thing that really, really pushed us forward in it. And I was super grateful that we could do it through Bandzoogle, because we've loved working with Bandzoogle over the years, and really happy to be able to just set it up as part of our website and do it, do it in that way in terms of how it could function. Because,
Yes.
we were supposed to be touring all over the world, and that was suddenly not happening, but we wanted to be able to still, be part of the community, both our other artist community and also what we're doing. So
That's interesting. So it was in response, more or less, to the pandemic hitting, and obviously you weren't able to tour, but you also took a look at what was successful in previous crowdfunding campaigns and just your interactions with your fans, and kind of built that into this new revenue model, that's really cool. So ask you the same question I asked Julian. In a post-pandemic world, do you think you'll be continuing with that online fan club when live shows come back and you're back on the road and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been interesting. I mean, I feel like I'm still learning in this process in terms of the best way to do it. But for example, we've, of course, instead of touring, been on a major writing kick in the last while. And we've just finished a song and a music video that's about some of the protests that have been happening and our role in it. And part of what we're showing in that is the power of collective voice. And so we have a bunch of different artist cameos and activist cameos in this music video. And what we did was we opened it up to our subscribers and said, would you like to be one of these faces, one of these voices, right? So they got to be, if they wanted to, they got to be in the music video and part of it and that kind of thing. And that was really interesting to see, like how excited they were about that too. And we're going to see what it's like when it actually launches as well. But that's the kind of thing that we feel like we can absolutely do when this is all finished. And also, I think we can also do interesting stuff in terms of like behind the scenes at festivals and shows and that kind of stuff. And that's some of the stuff we originally imagined doing in this time period too, with the thought of setting up a subscriber page. And obviously that's not happening, but it doesn't mean it can't expand in that way once we are back on the road.
Absolutely. It's such a great idea. Both the video and in a touring world, how like bridging the gap between being on the road and that subscribers. And in the next topic is going to talk about tiers and rewards, and I can't wait to dive into that because you have some really creative and interesting rewards for your subscribers, which we'll get to. But I want to ask Rita Hosking, who's here joining us from California. Hi, Rita.
Okay.
She's in Northern California, and she sings of forest fires, cultural clash, dishes, rivers, black holes, and hope. She's an award-winning and prolific songwriter, characterized as Here and Now by The Observer, and has spent the last 15 years writing, recording, and touring her original country folk music in the States and abroad. At the start of the shelter-in-place orders, Rita began an online creative journal called The Oar. It's now the ultimate source for her current work, where she's posting new songs, poems, articles, or essays on songwritings. And already published material and more. So Rita, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
At Bandzoogle, we often point to your website and your the Oar as a great example of an online sort of fan club. And so same question, when and why? Like, when did you launch it? Was it at the beginning? So it sounds like it was in response to the pandemic. Was it in response to potential loss of revenue from live shows? Was it something you had already been thinking about? Like, what led you to that?
My story is very much like Julian and Moksha's. In fact, when Julian said I started it out of a moment of panic, that's pretty much what I did too. I looked at my dates. My first entry was on March 22nd. I remember the day I decided to do it was a day, I think it was the 16th, and I was supposed to be at a festival that I had been really excited about it. And I just realized that this was the moment to do it, if any. And I'd been thinking about doing it for a long time, honestly, as physical music sales dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped over, over the years. I've been thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to replace this, 30% of my income or so. So I'd definitely been eyeing the platforms and thinking a lot about them, and was kind of poised to do it pretty quickly when this came along, because I had been thinking about it for a long time. So, and then when this actually happened, the shelter-in-place orders, I realized that not only do I still need a way to basically keep myself engaged, because what I saw was a precipice where I could just jump off into some really deep depression too, and inactivity, and questioning everything. So I just like realized I needed some railroad tracks to hop onto. So that's what this was going to be. And so not only did I need that, but I realized pretty quickly that everyone else needs that. The people who enjoy my shows, who come out, who enjoy the music, they're just as lost as I am, and they need something. So
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful way, I think, to keep some fans engaged in that way too. So it does feel like I have a way to connect besides the live streaming shows and things like that, that people have something to turn to that's unique, besides just, hooking up to Facebook Live or something.
Exactly. Wow, that's such a great way to put it. It's a great story to get to get to where you are. I mean, out of necessity, but also, and what you're doing with, this is actually a good segue to get into the next topic, which is kind of the tiers and rewards and how you all decided to structure things. And Rita, I'll stick with you for this question. You have a really unique approach, and so you have 7 different tiers, and they range from $3 a month to $25 a month. But all of your subscribers, no matter if they're at the $3 or $25, get access to the same content. So it's just essentially allowing fans to contribute what they can, but everyone gets the same rewards and perks and things like that. So can you tell me a little bit about your thought process on those tiers and the pricing, and also what is it that all of these subscribers get access to, the members of the OR?
Well, having also crowdfunded a couple of records, I was quite exasperated after a while dealing with different rewards and tiers and things, and incentives and packaging all those up and deciding who gets what. And so I was a little exhausted by that. And I was motivated to just, like I said, this was really a way to reach out to people, to give them something that they need. And I realized that my income disappeared. I bet everyone else's income has taken a hit, or not everyone, obviously, but a lot of other people. So I want to make this a sort of an egalitarian offering. Anyone can get everything, and you can decide how much you want to contribute, which seems to have been I think it's been a good plan so far. I have a lot of people who, of course, the whole range. We all do, people who don't make a lot of money and people who do make a lot of money, and they're giving from the heart. They care about what I'm doing, and it's a nice, trusting relationship. So to me, it's working really well. I don't have to worry about the complications of different tiers too. So I can just put whatever I want up, and it's there, and everybody can enjoy it if they want. And you might guess, oh, it's probably all $3. No, I have a bunch of $25 a month. If I'd put something higher, they might have even done that. But I didn't want to do that because I was a little nervous about that idea. Like, I don't know if I can give them, that quality of material.
Quick aside for you, Rita, and Moksha, and possibly Julian, any Bandzoogle member watching, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to add the functionality to have a pay what you want tier for subscriptions. So the person could enter anything from $1 through whatever amount they want.
That would be cool. Yeah.
So quick question. So what, for members of the OR, whether they're $3 or $25, what's a typical month like for them? Like what are you creating on a pretty regular basis for those subscribers?
I wanted to give myself as a clean and open slate as I could, because I love to do all sorts of different things. And I've been wanting to do all sorts of different things. So I promised them at least one new song a month, but it's more than that. I post at least once a week. I was posting every day the first week just to get things going, but I post at least once a week. I post new songs. I post poems, short essays, articles on songwriting, visual art projects. I mean, I've got everything from masks I made for a tour once to, like I did this sort of theatrical thing and I made masks. So I documented how I made all the masks, all the plaster, paper mache. I've renovated a 1975 Fleetwood Prowler travel trailer. I documented that for them because that was something I did. And, some steps I made down to a creek when I felt like swinging a pickaxe, and I wrote a little bit how I felt like I really need to swing the pickaxe, things that I hope people can relate to.
Right.
also. So that also articles so where I'm discussing past songs, workshops. I've done live workshops where I say, this is only for you. It's going to be on our special Facebook page. I'm only letting you know about it.
Yeah. That's really cool.
You know, things like that. I do have forums, which I've hoped people would engage more, but I'm not getting a lot of engagement on forums. So that's fine. Maybe that'll change. But I'm really having fun thinking of lots of different things to put on there and really enjoying the variety and that I'm able to put on there.
That's really cool. I mean, it sounds like
still keep thinking of new things. It's fun.
Yeah. It sounds like you're enjoying it, which is great. And it's also your fans are clearly getting, you know, a lot of unique and creative things out of it and are able to participate, which is really interesting and fun, I'm sure, for them as well. Moksha, I'm going to throw the question out to you. So Hudosed, another really interesting setup for an online fan club where you have 4 different tiers and they range from $5 to $100 a month. And, you know, you offer everything from early access to new songs and albums. You talked about being part of a video, which is really cool, exclusive online shows. But what the things that I really enjoyed about your offering is, you know, you're a visual artist, so there's some of your artwork, vegan cooking lessons, you know, discounts on merchandise, but also custom birthday messages for some of your subscribers. So how did you decide how many tiers, what the pricing would be, and what some of the rewards would be? Because some of them are really super unique and also super kind of personal to you. And how did you decide to start offering those to your fans?
Great question. Well, I mean, in honesty, what it boiled down to was doing stuff that I would actually find interesting and fun to do with people. You know, so for example, like I am a big fan of spreadsheets. I think they're exciting. And at the beginning of this process, I made a big spreadsheet for the subscribers' schedule, you know, month by month, and what the different options would be for the different tiers. And so, for example, for October, for the highest tier, the options that, you know, what people will get as their reward are a new song, a live streamed painting session that I play, and my husband, musical partner, will be playing live music in the background. And then I'll be fulfilling original artworks, you know, for the highest paying members with it. But, you know, like even the $5 tier has access to the new song and the live streamed painting session and that kind of stuff. So with each of these, I mean, really what it boiled down to, as I said, was like, what can we do that we will enjoy doing, that other people will enjoy receiving? And we've learned a little bit in the process of, like, at the very beginning, you know, some of the stuff that we offered, we set up like as Zoom sessions with people where it was a specific time and that kind of thing. Like we did some songwriting workshop stuff at the beginning. And we realized that's really hard for people, especially at this point where there's so much online offering. So we decided to do it in ways where if they could be part of it live, great. If not, it was captured and then offered on the different tier pages through Bandzoogle so that people could access it after as well. And it means that it just offers a little bit more options for people in terms of timeline with that kind of thing.
That's amazing. Julian Taylor, you've kept your setup really simple, which I love. And I actually advise a lot of our, especially when they're starting out, is just keep it simple. And we're seeing through our platform, artists are having a lot of success. It's just a 1 tier, you know, here's what you get. And so you talked a little bit earlier about, like, it was kind of out of desperation, just you put it up there and started, you know, interacting with your fans, doing some exclusive live shows, and it's 1 tier. So I guess my question is, why did you set it at 1 tier? Do you want to kind of just simplify things? Do you envision, like you're talking about, you know, documenting the making of your next album for your patrons through Patreon? Do you envision adding more tiers and different types of rewards, or where are you at with that?
I'm not sure if I'm going to add more tiers or not. I haven't really delved into that much, but the reason that I went with the 1 tier right off the bat, because, you know, just like Rita was saying, I had thought about doing this subscribers thing, and I never really got to it until the pandemic literally took gigs away and income away. And I was scared and concerned for everybody else who would have been, you know, going through financial woes, that to go ahead and ask them for a, 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 a lump, a really big sum was something that I was really nervous about. And I had conversations with my partner at the time and my manager at the time, and you know, they had said, "Oh, you can ask them for 10," and then I sort of balked and I said, "Well, everybody can afford a cup of coffee, you would hope." And they can't, by the way, which is the other thing.
Yeah.
It's not everybody can afford a cup of coffee, but that was sort of my reasoning and thinking of it. As as time I've done, you know, stories on past songs. I've done, you know, lyrics and stuff like that, and that I'm working on. I've shown videos of songs that I'm working on. I haven't gotten to the level of that I've recorded a song for patrons yet. That's gonna come within the scope and the idea of recording this new record uh, for subscribers. But yeah, that was really the reason, Dave. I was
Yeah.
concerned about people not being able to afford, um, I guess, toilet paper at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, that's totally valid. And you know, even going forward in a post-pandemic world, like I think it's totally fine. I love seeing like creative, like multi-tier, multi-reward setups, but also just the straight up, it's $5 a month or whatever, $10 a month, and here's what you get, is also very successful for artists. And it's a good segue actually to our final topic within this topic of fan subscriptions and patronage, which is finding that balance when you're, because it's a lot of work. You're creating content on a regular basis. You're interacting with your fans maybe a little bit more and on a deeper level. You're giving a lot of yourself as an artist with these online fan clubs. So let's talk a little bit about finding a balance between this and all the other things that you have to take care of as an artist. So Moksha, you said you're releasing a new song. You created that video with your subscribers. When you have a new album coming out, do you think you're going to also, because Who Else has had success with crowdfunding, are you also going to crowdfund on top of having this online fan club? Like, how are you thinking of balancing this with crowdfunding, releasing a new album, and then touring? Have you thought that far ahead, or?
Yeah, and actually that's a great question, because one of the things I've been contemplating, we have in this time been writing basically a whole new album. And we do plan to do another crowdfunding campaign around, prior to the release of that. But one of the things I've considered is, considering how successful in the previous campaigns those things were that allowed for more ongoing interaction with the fans that were people who gave toward the campaigns. One of the things that I want to do is actually integrate the subscription service with that. And one of the things through Bandzoogle is that you can add people who are not actually paying to your subscription service, and they will still receive the benefits. So one of the things I've contemplated, we will do our next fundraising campaign through Bandzoogle too, which I'm looking forward to as well, because that's now an option. But one of the things I want to do as some of the perks are the different subscription levels that they will automatically, as part of what they give, to the album, they will automatically be signed up for, say, a year for different tiers of the subscription service. And I think what that'll do is it'll make it so that some of the fans who have not yet signed on for subscription services may want to keep it going afterwards, just because they get a feel for it, and they get a feel for what it is to have these ongoing, experiences and perks and that kind of thing.
Right. Very smart. Yeah, that's great. And I'm happy to hear that. Julian, obviously there's no live shows going on, unfortunately, right now, but when you get back out there and gig and tour and play festivals again, do you think you're going to keep this patronage model going? Are you thinking about how you're going to balance that with, releasing the next album, maybe crowdfunding or running a pre-order campaign, that kind of thing, with this new element and this new thing to manage and oversee?
I found that when I've done a crowdfunding thing, it doesn't really work for me.
Yep.
The pre-order thing does and has. I found that when I've gone on tour, we've done a couple of shows. I did a couple of drive-in shows, and that was interesting. But I find that it's really easy to actually create content while on the road. In a lot of ways, for me, and I can only speak for myself, it's easier to develop content on the road because I don't have the same sort of responsibilities that I do here at home as a parent and as,
Yeah.
you know, all that other stuff, sort of gets in the way. So it is really hard to find the discipline to create content sometimes for me. I go through bouts of really low periods. I love what Rita said about the train tracks. I think having some sort of goal in mind that can keep you on the path is a really, really good thing for any musician and any person who creates. Because I know that these platforms are not only for musicians. Certainly all of us here are musicians, but some are visual artists as well. And, you know, Moksha is a chef, obviously. And so there's all sorts of ways that you can allow people into your life. You have to really determine as to how much you want them in your life, because we've gotten to this age where, ironically, when everybody's asking us to be paired up in our family bubbles or our friend bubbles, the online world has created a bubble for us all unto itself, where these conversations would have been had in person that we're having now. So you have to really look at it that way. Do I want everybody to be a part of everything that's going on in my life, or do I want to keep some stuff for me and my family that's sacred? So
Yeah.
to answer that question, while on the road, it's easier because I'm not with my family all the time.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really great point. Like you're on the road, there's a lot of, as you know, and
There's
you're just
nothing to
watching this,
do.
there's nothing to do. You're waiting for the sound
Yeah.
check or to load in or whatever. And so there's a lot of time to create content. Whereas when you're at home and you have your family, there's a lot of responsibility. That's such a great point I didn't think of. So yeah, it almost might be
It might be
easier in a way
Yeah.
when you get back on tour. Wow. Rita, for you, it sounds like you're like the or, club that you started, like it sounds really successful and it's, very interactive. When live gigs come back, are you going to continue with it? Are you thinking of releasing new music and a new album at some point? And if so, are you going to make that exclusive to your or subscribers, or are you going to release it more traditionally? Like, have you thought about that yet?
Yeah, I've thought about it, and of course it all depends on what happens as things move along. And I think, yes, definitely, when gigs come back, I want to keep this going. Like you say, that I gave it this special name, I actually hired someone to make a logo for it because I wanted it to look like a literary journal, like those kinds we read in college, from this or that, like the or, and it had all this fascinating stuff inside. So I want to keep it going. And I think, like Julian says, I think being on the road is actually going to give me just more material to work with. So
Nice.
I can't see how I don't think I would have any dearth of material. And I think it really does, for me, it really does help supplement the loss of physical music sales, which I don't anticipate changing. I mean, I don't anticipate that's going to change much. So I feel like I really need it to supplement my tour income.
Yeah.
And as far as another album, I wouldn't only offer it to my subscribers. I think I would go ahead and do a regular marketing campaign on the album and sell it how I normally have, and probably do a pre-order thing, because I too, the crowdfunding, it all went okay, but if I'm doing subscriptions and crowdfunding, that to me might feel overwhelming to figure all that out. So my last album, I did pre-orders and that worked well. So I'd probably offer pre-orders, keep my creative journal subscription going, do my touring, sell my record. One thing I'd like to do, and maybe Ben Zugel, you guys have a way to do this, and I've found a way to do it, and it's what Moksha described, is that you can send free subscription links to people. But I do encounter people who say, I want to see this. I want to know what you're doing, but I don't want to subscribe. And it's not that I don't want to support you. I don't like the credit card bills and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like having to, something that's billing me every month. So I say, fine, just send me some money and I'll send you a free link. Send me whatever you want. I don't care. I'll send you a free link.
Yeah.
And they do, and they end up being they've all been very generous so far. And so it would be cool maybe to have some kind of one-time annual subscription option, that quote subscription annual option.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And because I think I need to write something on my site somehow, saying like, this is an option, because usually people just write to me going, what do I do? I don't want to do this, but I want to do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we get that a lot. So the pay what you can option will be launched soon, an annual option hopefully, and a free trial option as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Might be built in so people can get like a taste of it
Yeah.
for free. So we want to try to keep this to an hour. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So I want to get to some questions that are coming in from.
Can I add one thing?
Yes,
Sorry.
please do, Julian.
I don't know about the other artists on this panel, but I have to say that the subscription this year, since it's been set up, has paid me more royalties than any streaming has.
Oh yeah, by a long shot for me.
By a long shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I would keep it going just because of that.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. And so we're seeing, and artists that are using our built-in feature, we can see the data, and there are artists earning, $50 a month, all the way to literally thousands of dollars a month through fan subscriptions, and the range goes all in between that. So it is pretty amazing to see, and through Bandzoogel's commission free on top of that. So all that money is going directly to the artist. So we're really heartened to see that. And that's a great point, Julian. Like even post-pandemic, I think a lot of artists have discovered this revenue stream during this time, because you unfortunately had a lot more time on your hands if you're not touring and worrying about booking and playing shows. And so looking at this revenue stream, it could be something that benefits you and your career long term, which is a great point. And that's actually a good segue. One of the questions that came in from Colin is how all of you, our artist panelists, grow that online subscriber base, because you're on social media and you're promoting other things. Like, how do you actually grow that subscriber base? You mention it regularly in newsletters, you mentioned on social media. Like, how do you all approach driving more people to that, or growing that fan? You're already trying to grow your fan base. So how are you also growing the base of subscribers? Maybe Moksha, if you want to start us off.
Sure. Well, I mean, I will say that, Dave, what you said at the beginning of the fact that you do have to be somewhat established in terms of having a good, at least a good subscriber list in terms of your mailing list, and various things like that before you venture out in this way. That's very true. Like, it takes a lot of just time and work to have the kind of list where there already is some amount of interaction going, whether it's on social media or through a mailing list. And so that's the first step, really and truly, and being very present and responsive in both of those areas. And then I think you can just use those as tools with which to put forward this option to people. Yeah.
Julian, how about you? Do you mention it pretty regularly to your fans, let them know it's there, or just kind of let it grow organically as people come across your music and your website?
At the beginning, I did.
Yeah.
I've stopped. I've just sort of let it grow organically. I do mention it on my, it's linked on all my socials, obviously, and on my website. The reason for that is because I didn't want to push people, I didn't want to push them into paying more money, and the reason being is because I do want to relaunch it and have something to say about the next sort of recording process in my career. So I intend to come back and promote it. The Ridge, the solo record I put out recently, did really well, and publicity wise and whatnot. So there was just too much information for people to take in, as what I felt. And so when there's no information to give them, that's what I'm going to say. That, hey,
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, it comes down to that balance too, of not only balance managing, but balance with what are you promoting. Like, you can't promote all the things all at
You
once.
have to go, like, I always look at it as like going to the well, and looking at my body as that well. You know, when when I've exerted a lot of myself and put out content and felt good about that, that's really nice because it's a very exhilarating feeling. But that also tires you out, and you just have to pause for a second. And at the moment, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, fair enough. Rita, how about yourself? Like, do you talk about the or in a
Mhm.
public way, whether it's on social media or through publicly available blogs? Like, how do you let your current friends who are not yet subscribers know that this kind of exclusive, interactive, creative club is there?
Certainly mentioning at gigs, which is, the live stream things. I actually
Right.
launched it, early on in March when we were doing Facebook Live concerts, and there were not as many people doing Facebook Live concerts at the time, and people and fans were super clued in. So I had pretty big audiences for me, and I launched it there. Got a lot of people that way. I made the or its own Facebook page. I have a lot of
Oh,
people
nice.
on Facebook, and so I post there when I make a post. Usually on the or I post it there, and then on my other pages, social media pages, I usually put a sample of something, or I often put a sample. Like I just posted a video of a song with me drawing in kind of cartoon style the lyrics out, all fast forward. And so I just took a sample of that and I posted it and I said, you want to see more? You can subscribe at the or.
That's
Oh, da,
great.
da, da, da. So, and I part of me feels like there is a little bit of tension sometimes when I've got this material. People, I hate to say it, but people are used to getting music for free
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
videos for free. So when I put that up, I have, like, one of my fans even kind of expressed some discomfort about it. Like, I want to see the rest, and but I feel the more I've done this, the more solid I feel about it all the time. I mean, the base subscription I'm asking for is a total of $36 a year, which is less than 2 tickets to see me live, you know,
Yeah.
and they're getting all my current work. And and most of my music is close to free now, if not free, available on the internet. So
Yeah.
I feel really solid about asking people to subscribe. And I
Yeah.
feel really solid about saying, hey, here's a sample. This is what I'm doing. It's awesome. You should join me. So I try to do that as much as I can, and hold back from sharing too much. Sometimes I'll share one whole thing like once a month and say, this is great. You should see more.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a wonderful approach. That makes total sense. I'll say
And
for people watching this, oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead, Moksha.
no, I just want to add to that I think we do have to be willing to be honest about the vulnerability of artists in this time specifically as well, in terms of the way we're reaching out. And I think in terms of, what you just said about people expecting more and wanting more, like, yeah, absolutely, that's so true. They need to be informed in terms of, what that means in terms of for our lives though, as well, and
Yeah.
what's on the table in this time. I think a lot of people, especially like who are just used to streaming Spotify and stuff, don't even think through what this means in terms of the amount of energy and funds have gone out on the part of the artists too. And if they're fans and friends and that kind of thing, then they actually want to learn more about what it is that they can do to support the artists that they love. So I think there just has to be an understanding that walking people through that is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. A couple questions came in the same question, and it's a great one because at the intro I said, fan subscriptions, this patronage model is not for every musician. You have to have a bit of an established fan base. And of course, people are asking, well, how big of a fan base is established? Like when can you get started? And there's no scientific answer to it. I would say that there's a lot of data that shows that 15% of your mailing list subscribers, not social media. Social media it's a much more passive commitment where you click a like or you click a follow. Signing up to someone's mailing list is a little bit more like you really want to hear from them. 15% of your mailing list are people that would be considered super fans. And you can kind of plan out crowdfunding or fan subscriptions based on about 10 to 15% of your email list. So not an exact science, but that gives you hopefully that gives the people that asked a little bit of a better sense of like when can I start thinking? It depends on what your expectations are in terms of revenue and things like that. So that answers that. I'd say the rest of the questions right now are a bunch of Bandzoogle specific platform questions. And I know we only have a couple of minutes left. So for those people, I would suggest going to just bandzoogle.com, go to our live chat. They're online 7 days a week. Our support team can answer those questions much better than I could. There's things about storage limits and things like that. And I don't want to take up time of the webinar right now to do that because we are running out of time, but I appreciate the questions. Our support team is awesome. They're mostly musicians themselves that have experience even using these tools. So they'll be happy to answer those questions directly. And I think, yeah, the rest was all Bandzoogle specific. So if there's any last question, I think we have 1 minute. If not, Tressa, I think you're good to go.
I'm back.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. It's me. I'm back. Well, I would like to thank you all attendees for joining this webinar presented by Bandzoogle, built for musicians by musicians. Bandzoogle makes it very easy to build a beautiful website for your music and manage your direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Plus, Dave Cool, what's not to love? A huge thank you to our esteemed panelists. But before that, I'm sorry, I'm doing this in the wrong order. FAI does offer these webinars free of charge, not only to our members, but to the community and industry at large, and in fact, to the whole world. So we appreciate any support you can offer to help offset our programming costs so we can continue to do so. And to make a tax-deductible donation, you can visit folk.org. You can also see all of our past recordings on our YouTube channel. We hope you found the ideas presented here useful to you. A huge thank you to our esteemed panelists, Moksha Sommer. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Sorry, Moksha. Moksha Sommer, Julian Taylor, Rita Hosking, and Dave Cool. Please remember to click that link and download that 88-page PDF Dave gave us, which is fabulous, and to answer the survey at the end of this webinar when the window closes so that we can provide you with more programming that you want. Stay safe, stay connected, stay in community, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye,
you.
all.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.
Rita,
Nice to meet you.
Moksha.